All right. So, and let's switch to our speaker view. I'm going to pin my video. We are live on YouTube and we're live on Zoom. We're live on all the things, and you can hear the train outside my house. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Elliot. This is TG-ENBY Project, and per Max's request on Patreon, we're going to be doing some butt stuff tonight, some glutes, glute max, glute min, glute med. We're going to hit all the glutes. We're going to do some standing work. We're going to do some work down on the ground. It's just going to be all booty, booty, booty tonight. As always, we're going to start with some standing joint prep. We'll go ahead and come down to the mat after that and do some hip prep down on the ground as well, just to make sure our hips are nice and juicy and ready to go. I'm going to demonstrate multiple variations for all the movements. None of them are better or worse than the other. They're just a different way of doing it. Feel free to substitute any of the movements that you want with something else. If you think that something else is going to be better for your body today, just listen to your body, because you know your body better than anyone else. So let's go ahead and get started. Make sure you have some water and maybe a towel. I've got a red hanky. We all know what the red hanky means, right? I mean, if you don't know, ask me when we're not live streaming on YouTube, and I'll tell you what the red hanky means. All right, so starting in our standing position, we're gonna start in our head and neck as we usually do. My neck already popped. And keep the shoulders rolled back and down, and start to bring some consciousness to your breath. And think of each end range as nailing an exhale. So I'm gonna exhale and exhale, and take one more on each side, and ending at neutral. And we're going to look over each shoulder. So looking over the shoulder, and exhale over the shoulder, really staying focused on smooth movement and settling into whatever your end range may be. And let's bring it into head rolls. I love these head rolls. I've had an extra stiff neck today. Probably slept funny because my dog was taking up extra space on the bed last night. And other way. Keep these smooth and stay in a range of motion that's not clunky for you. Let's come into shoulders, and we're going to shrug and pull them together and then roll them back and down. So it's just like we're making a box, but then we're rounding out the edges. Bring some thought to your abdominals. You can already see my belly button sweat on my light colored shirt. It's nice and hot here. And other way. And we're going to come into some trunk rotations and get some dynamic rotational work. I like to pivot my toe just so I don't put any extra twist on my knees, because my knees can get sensitive. So if that's a thing for you. And someone did ask a question earlier about a mat. I have a mat out because I have a shoeless house and I have hardwood floors. And if I wear my socks on those floors, we'll be sliding all over the place, which could be fun, but that's not our goal tonight. We are going to do some work down on the ground. So if a mat would be more comfortable for you, then go ahead and grab one. Let's step it wide, and then nice and slow, just come down into whatever the bottom of your deep squat is tonight, and then back up. So when you first start these, maybe your deep squat's here, and this is okay. There's reaching the hips back and up and down. Remember, we've got that belly nice and tight. Maybe you bring your hands here to help you feel your abdominals engaged. Take two more. 1 and 2. Let's come into some foot circles, and then we'll get down on the ground and get some more hip prep. I love our mobility, stability work. Some of my favorite work to do. It's really great for functional movement to help you be nice and strong in your daily life tasks. All right, come down to the ground. And we're gonna set up hands and knees. I'm gonna face this way so that you can get a view of what's gonna happen here. And you're gonna tent out one leg. Doesn't matter which leg you start with because you're gonna do them both. I like to do my right side first because that's the tighter side. I'm keeping my foot flexed so my toes point towards the front of the room. And then you're gonna step, I'm gonna turn this way now so that you can get a different view. Step your hands forward a little bit. And you're gonna pull your body forward and squeeze your booty and press into your hips and then press back. Now watch this foot, get it so where you can see it. So I'm on the inside edge of my foot and I'm keeping it flexed. This is gonna help stretch out the adductors. Those are the muscles on the inside of your thigh. And getting those loose are gonna be really useful for some of the side kicks that we're gonna be doing today. And always remember, it's totally okay to use any props or aids that you might need to help you feel secure in any of these movements. If you need a broomstick, if you need a chair, let's switch sides. So don't hesitate to grab whatever you need from your house and press it and rock it back. I am all about props. If a prop helps you stay in a nice, safe range of motion or helps you feel secure, then take it. We're always working on shifting our concept of what is worthy exercise or what is good exercise into conceptualizing all movement that you do as being beneficial for your body. Always free of stigma. Hands and knees, and we're gonna do some cat and cow if you have any experience with yoga. As you inhale, flick your tailbone up, gaze up and pull your shoulder blades together. And then exhale, drive into the ground, tuck your tailbone and look back at your pelvis. And inhale and exhale. And feel free to just explore this movement. If you want to make circles, you can make circles. I really like to point my fingers towards my knees and get a little stretch in my wrists and my forearms. If you think that will feel good for you, then I invite you to try it. I also like to draw some circles here. I get really tight in my forearms, so this kind of stuff always feels good for me. Just remember, you just take whatever your body tells you is feeling beneficial. We're gonna come into a short lever mountain climber next. So we're still in this hands and knees position. Remember, if your wrists are talking to you and that flex position's not comfortable, you can always make some fists, okay? So take whatever you think that you need. You're gonna exhale, pick up your foot and try to set it down by your hand. If it doesn't get by your hand, that's all right. It'll get there someday, maybe. And if it doesn't, that's all right. And exhale. And I'm just pressing my chest down a little bit once I get in this position to get a little bit deeper. If you're feeling like maybe you can go even deeper, if you'd like, you can bring this into a high plank and press into it. And if that is feeling a little too intense, then by all means, just come into down here. Maybe this is all the intensity that you need. All right, we're gonna come back into your deep squat. And you know, I love this one. We do this one almost every week. If you can reach your toes, put your fingertips underneath your toes, and you're gonna lift your hips up for a forward fold. I'm gonna demo this again from the side. So I'm dropping, lifting the chest, shifting the gaze up and forward, and then lifting the hips and going, hello, look behind you. And down and up. And if your squat's not as deep as mine, that's okay. Maybe you're in here and this is totally all right too. Or maybe you're just touching your shins in here. This is totally fine too. We're just trying to get a little bit of length in our hamstrings and get them nice and warm. Go ahead and shake that out a little bit. We're gonna come into the hip flexors. So I mentioned a broomstick earlier, and I'll demonstrate this with the broomstick just so you can see. If you need a little extra balance for any of this stuff, then you can get a broomstick. This is just a dowel that I got at Home Depot. We don't shop at Home Depot anymore, but I bought the dowel before I knew. This also works for a chair. If you put a chair in front of you, you can use a chair for support. And we're keeping our stretching dynamic at the beginning of our work, which is why I'm just hitting the end range and then switching to the other side. I like to keep my static stretching for the end. Now, the one exception is going to be if we want to deactivate a typically tight muscle group so that it will relax. And that is something we do want to do for our glute work. We want to get our hip flexors to relax and release a little bit so that we can really activate our glutes. My knees are sensitive for this position, so I'm going to use a little extra pad. You can fold your mat over or put a folded up towel under your knee. And we're going to come into a half kneel and we're going to press into a static stretch for the hip flexor in the front of the thigh. I'm keeping my foot flexed for this just because I can typically use extra stretch in that dorsiflexed position in the foot, but it's totally okay if your foot is flat as well. You just do whatever feels good for you. I'm keeping my hips square as I can, squeezing the belly. Sometimes I like to reach back and just kind of feel what my low back is doing and make sure I'm nice and flat and long in my spine. And squeeze your butt cheek for 5, 4, 3, 2, and release. Let's switch sides. And press and hold. Think long, long thoughts for your spine. Try to find a sensation of there being space between the vertebrae. I like to think of myself as a marionette puppet with a string on the top of my head and the puppeteer is pulling on the string. Squeeze your booty and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful work. Have some water if you need it. I'm going to have some water. So remember, if at any point you need to stop and pull back and have some rest, have some water, give yourself that space. Don't think that you have to wait for me to tell you that you can have water. If your body's saying it's thirsty, then go ahead and stop and have some water. All right. So let's teach you the movements for our standing exercises. So we're going to start standing and then we're going to come down to the mat. I'll pull the mat in a little bit closer for you when that happens and bring the camera down so you can see a little bit more detail. So we're going to teach you the movements and then we're going to do a set. And once we've learned all the movements, then we're going to put them to a minute each. All right. So once again, those of you patrons that are here on the Zoom, if you have any questions, go ahead and feel free to unmute or use the chat so that I can address your questions. We're starting with a squat to curtsy. So this can be done doing one side at a time or alternating sides. So if you're doing one side at a time, it's going to be squat, right? And then traveling leg is going to step back and diagonal and curtsy. It's to the knee floating and then up. And then squat and curtsy. I'll show you this curtsy from the side. So I'm stepping behind myself and diagonally. My back foot is high, and then I'm bending my knees. I'm staying upright, and I'm only going as low as I can maintain that upright. So once I hit a point, if my torso starts to collapse, then I know I've gone as deep as my body can support me for right now. If you're doing alternating sides, we would be squat, curtsy, squat, and then other side, curtsy. So take whichever variation of that feels accessible for you tonight. And if the curtsy feels like maybe you're not ready for it or you're not feeling like it tonight, you can just work on your squat. Maybe you do a squat and then a reverse lunge instead. This is totally okay too. All right, let's do a set of 3 on each side. I'm going to do them alternating. You do them whichever way you like. So 3 on each side, squat, curtsy, squat, and curtsy. That's one on each side. Curtsy, squat, curtsy, two on each side. Boom, 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 boom. All right, compound movement right out of the gate. We have a hyperextended glute pulse now. So this one's gonna be 30 seconds on each side when we do it. So from the side, and apologies for the contrast situation with my dark shorts. I don't actually own any light colored shorts. We're trying to keep the hips square and keeping the foot flexed, press through your heel back behind you. So this is your hyperextension and your belly tight. If you need a broomstick for extra stability, take it, or a chair. And we're just gonna pulse. So we're squeezing that butt cheek, and you're probably home by yourself or with people that you trust because you live with them. So if you wanna put your hand on that cheek and feel it squeezing, then go ahead. All right, so let's try each side for about 10 seconds. Set up your position, and 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and switch sides. Set up your balance, and 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, that's your hyper extension with a pulse, with a glute pulse. Alternating side kicks are next. So when you're working through these side kicks, listen to your body, listen to your knees, only kick as high as you feel like you have access to, and I'll show you a couple of different ways that you can work it. So for these side kicks, we're keeping the knees soft, so we're sort of settling into that bottom leg. We're looking where we want to kick, and then we're going boom, right? So it's like you're trying to punch something with the heel of your foot. And if alternating, you can do alternating, or you can just do all on one side and then switch, okay? So you can kick high, you could even kick the ground, so you can kick down. We just wanna keep the toe pointed forward. Maybe that is too intense for you, that little punching. You can just bring it up and extend it and down and extend it and down. So let's work on this for maybe about 15 seconds. So I'm gonna go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right, starting to get a little warm in there. So we've got hinges next. If you've done deadlifts in the gym before, this is just a deadlift without a weight. So we're gonna push our elbows back, shoulders down, nice tight belly. Reach your sits bones back and try and find that stretching sensation in your hamstrings. And then once you've hit that point where they're really stretching, squeeze your booty and come up. So we're hitting the stretch and recoil. So if you were to think about a rubber band getting pulled back and then released, we're using that releasing of the tension to power ourselves back up into a standing position. So let's do about 8 of these. Reach it back and squeeze. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So that's your hinges. Your last movement in the standing series is going to be a single leg abduction or abduction, and that's simply the leg moving away from the body. So much like our kicks, I'm keeping my foot flexed, toes pointed forward, and I'm only lifting my leg as high as I can maintain stability in the opposing hip. And I'm really actively pushing through my heel, so I can squeeze those little muscles in the side of my booty. Let's do 3 more on this side, holding for beat at the top and then down slow. 2, and switch sides. 1, 2, get your broomstick or your chair if you need it. Everyone's stability looks different. So we're still building up strength and endurance in the stabilizers if you use a chair for a little bit of support. All right, that's all of our standing movements. So we're gonna go through a minute on each one. The ones that are double-sided, you're gonna switch at 30 seconds. Does anyone have any questions? Or does anyone need anything demonstrated again? All right. Let's go ahead and get it going then. I'm gonna set up our clock. So 1 minute with our squat to curtsy, starting in 3, 2, and begin. So I'm gonna do this set with alternating sides. Remember, if you wanna do one side at a time, that's totally okay. We'll give you a heads up when it's at 30 seconds so that you can switch. And don't be too terribly concerned about my pacing. We're gonna be at 30 seconds in 5, 4, 3, 2, and switch sides if you're doing single-sided. So my hands, you'll notice, kind of do this floppy Muppet thing through this. This is just sort of habit from where my hands go. So if you're more comfortable holding your hands in one place, if you'd like to make this feel a little more challenging for the core, you can raise your arms above your head. There's a lot of different ways to make things harder without equipment. All right, we're gonna come into the hyperextended glute pulse. So remember, this is this guy, we're kicking behind us. 3, 2, and begin. Open up the timer so I don't miss our 30-second mark. So when I'm in this one, I feel like I have to be extra aware to keep my abdominals engaged so I can keep my hips square. You've got 15 more seconds on the side. No, Siri thinks I'm talking to her. I didn't invite you, girl. Good, 3, 2, and switch sides. So I'm noticing I'm a little unstable in this tonight. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take a little extra support in the form of my dowel. And I like to just maybe put a couple fingertips on there and make sure that I'm using my booty, keeping my belly tight so that my low back feels supported and secure. And 3, 2, and 1. Nice work. We've got alternating side kicks next. It's time for the red hanky. There's someone in here. All right, you ready? 3, 2, and begin. So remember, if you're doing one side at a time, then that's totally cool too. I'll let you know when we're at 30 seconds. And I'm always remembering to spot. I'm always looking at what I'm kicking. It's gonna help you with your stability. Oop. Excuse me while I make sure that I can actually see our time. 5, 4, 3, 2, and switch sides if you're doing one side at a time. So play with your hands if you need to. My arm goes out because that helps me with my stability. It also helps me remember to keep my foot flexed and punch through my heel. 10 seconds, you're doing awesome. Whoop. See what happens when I take my eyes off my spot? That's when I get all wobbly. Just bring my focus back. And time. Hinges are next. So this is our deadlift without any weight. Gonna start our time and reach the hips back and then recoil. So these can be fast, like you're doing a kettlebell swing, or maybe you need to slow it down because you're just fresh with this movement and you're still learning the mechanics of it. Either one is totally fine. Or maybe you just did legs at the patio at everybody and your legs are already a little toasted and you want to treat this more like a recovery. And so you're going to take it gentle. All of these things are acceptable. You can lift one heel if you want to bring this into replicating a single leg, deadlift. That's going to make it feel a little bit more challenging in that side. You can load up a backpack with some books. Hold a 5-gallon bucket full of rice. That's a lot of rice. I don't know how many people were hoarding rice. All right, that's 60 seconds. So next we have that single leg abduction. And we're going to do 30 seconds on each side. Start on whichever side. I'm going to start on my left side because my balance on my right leg is not as strong. So I want to start by balancing on the side that I am a little more challenged in. Really working on keeping the foot flexed, toes pointed forward, and I have a soft bend in my stabilizing leg. All of this is really going to help me stay balanced and keep that work focused in my booty. Switch sides. So play around with your positioning and see what you need to tweak to get that warming sensation in the side of your butt. See if you can find that space where you're able to move the limb and keep your belly braced and tight. Exhale. You've got this. Y'all are doing great. And time. Take 30 seconds of some recovery time. Then we're going to start at the beginning and we're going to do that again. I'm definitely going to have some water. Those of you in the Zoom room, how are you feeling? Quiet must mean that you're feeling really good. That's how I choose to interpret it.
Feeling awesome.
Feeling awesome. Thank you, Max. All right, we're coming back to that squat to curtsy. Remember, this one is a full minute, 30 seconds on each side if you're doing one side at a time. We're going to begin in 3, 2, and 1. Squat. And I'm going to do one side this time, just so that anyone's doing one side can see it demonstrated. Maybe you've got your hands above your head. Hands above the head are okay. Everything's okay. It's totally awesome if you're just squatting and not doing the curtsy, or squatting and doing a different variation. 5, 4, 3, 2, and switch sides if you were doing that one side at a time. So both ways has its benefits. So metabolically, meaning the amount of energy it takes, doing alternating sides can be more challenging. Doing all one side at a time, we're really burning out that side. Because I'm getting a nice deep burn in there now. Good. All right, we've got that glute pulse. And I remembered that I needed this. And let's set 30 seconds. Woo, all right, there it is. And whichever side you want to start on, hyperextend, flex your foot, and squeeze your booty. I'm not pulsing super fast tonight because my body is not feeling particularly strong in this movement tonight. So I don't want to add a lot of speed to something that I don't feel like I have super solid alignment in. And that's okay. I was feeling really strong in this movement earlier today, but now it's not. And switch sides. So wherever you are is all right. If you feel like you're at a 2 this evening, then be your best 2. And that's just as good as being a 10. Breathe. I need to bring my awareness back to my belly, back to keeping my hips square, maybe keeping my movement a little bit smaller. 3, 2, and 1. We have alternating side kicks next. 60 seconds. And shift the gaze and kick. And kick. So you see why we warmed up our hips? We spent a little extra time and got down on the ground to get our hips ready. And you'll notice as you progress through your sets that the hips start to get warmer and looser. And maybe you get a little more fluid and your range of motion increases. Maybe not. Usually you'll find that those things will start to shift a little bit for you. So we're going to be doing this twice because we have groundwork to do. But if you go back in this recording on YouTube and do this again, or to just remind yourself of the workout, you can do all of these movements 3 times, 4 times, whatever you like. Your workout. Exhale, then exhale. Bringing that awareness to my abdominals, bracing it. 3, 2, and 1. Hinges are next. All right, 3, 2, and begin. Reaching my hips back, and boom. And inhaling on the way back, and keeping that belly tight. Maybe bring that hand, that flat hand back there again to feel what's happening in the low back. We want the low back to just have the natural curve of the spine. So we're not seeking to eliminate the natural curve of our spine. We also want to make sure that we're not dumping the pelvis forward and putting a lot of pressure on our low back. So if you're finding you're having some discomfort in your low back, bring your range of motion a little bit smaller. And the back of that hand can offer you a little bit of awareness. And exhale. We're almost there. Then we get to come down to the mat. And time. All right, we've got that single leg abduction. I'm going to set us for 30 seconds. And I'm starting with my balance on my poor balance side, my less strong side, and begin. There we go. Not that I'm trying to balance shame the right side of my body. I'm still working on adjusting some habits I have surrounding language when it's talking about a strong side and a less strong side. I'm still trying to find the words that I think are a little more positive. When we name something, we give it a lot of power. So if I'm constantly telling my right side of my body, switch, that it has poor stability, then I'm just reinforcing that message in my brain. So I'm working on not saying that it has poor stability. It has stability. It's just not quite as stable as the other side. There we go. 3, 2, and 1. This is a great space for you to take some water, take any stretches that would feel good for your body. I feel like a lateral movement of my spine would feel really good right now. So that's what I'm going to take. You take whatever you feel like you need. I'm also kind of feeling like some flexion and extension, and a nice gentle standing cat and cow would feel good. So I'm going to take that. Just listening to whatever my body tells me it's needing right now. So continue to do whatever movements are going to feel nice for you. I'm going to slide this mat in a little bit closer and angle my camera down. And we're going to come down to the ground for some mat work. If anyone needs an extra minute to get their mat or anything else, you just holler at me. You can also throw an icon up on there. Those of you that are in Zoom, you'll see some little icons in the reactions tab. All right, look at me sitting here explaining Zoom to y'all like everyone doesn't live on Zoom these days. All right, mat work. Lots of fun stuff can happen for the glutes and hips when we're down on the mat. So we're going to start with some hip bridges. And I like to think of these as peeling my back off of the mat. So you're going to come down to a supine position. That means you're facing up. So on your back, feet posted, and put your feet wherever they're comfortable, meaning wherever your knees aren't experiencing anything that feels uncomfortable or painful. For some of you, that'll be further away. Typically, that's going to put more of the work in your hamstrings. For some of you, it will be closer to your booty. That's going to put more work in the booty and the low back. So I like to drive my elbows into the ground. That helps me remember to keep my shoulder blades nice and flat on the ground. And I'm going to start by tucking the tailbone and then squeezing your booty, driving your heels into the ground and coming to a full extension. And then setting it down one part of your back at a time. So you're going to lift the tailbone, lift the low back, lift the mid back, and then come into full hip extension and peel it down. For some of you, these bridges might feel easy. So I invite you to go ahead and maybe try a single leg bridge. Maybe you're alternating. Maybe you're holding your bridge and you're marching while trying to keep your hips at the same height. These are all really great variations. And for some of y'all, maybe you're just working on just barely getting your booty off the ground. Okay, all of these are totally all right. I just want to invite you to find the one where you feel like you're getting the most contraction in your booty that you can get without experiencing any discomfort in the low back or the knees. So let's go ahead and work through a minute of these. I'm going to start in 3, 2, and 1. So I've got my shoulder blades flat on the ground. I'm going to start off by just doing a good old straightforward bridge with nothing else added to it. I'll switch to another variation partway through, just so everyone has a chance to get a visual. I'm going to go ahead and switch to single leg on the left side, just working one side. So this is another option for this movement. Squeezing your booty. And I'm going to switch to the right side so that I'm not lopsided, walking around in circles. Feeling a little twingy in my knee, so I'm just going to move my heel out a little bit and see if that helps. Yeah, there we go. That's a good spot. So we're not dogmatic about these things, and time, that's 1 minute. So next we have a starfish. Lots and lots of really fun things you can do here. So don't be afraid to get creative. So we're going to be a side lying position on your forearm, knees bent. I've got my hips lined up with my knees. Hand can go on your hip or it can go up. It can go right here, whatever feels cute. So you're going to lift your hips up off the mat and then lift your top leg and bring it down and up. So you can work it that way. You can extend this leg and work with it long. That's an option as well. You can lift and stay lifted. And if you want to be really fancy and fun, you can tap that toe down in front of you and then behind you. So lots and lots of options here. Let's take 30 seconds on each side. In 3, 2, and begin. So boom. Starting right in here, and then I'll do those other variations as well. Maybe you're doing a long leg. This is putting a little more weight. Just keep that top shoulder pulled back. Maybe we're in here. Maybe you're holding it up and just pulsing this top leg. Lots and lots of fun ways to do this. My bottom glute is on fire. Oh my gosh, thank goodness it's time to go to the other side. All right, just switch your sides. And 3, 2, begin. So once again, we've got right in here. Maybe we've got a long leg. And if you want to switch around and try the different ones, you can do all of them in one set. It's your workout. You get to do whatever you want. And breathe, keeping my belly tight. and time. All right, we're gonna go and do each of those one more time. I think I got bit by a mosquito. They're really brutal this year, y'all. It's really not cute at all. All right, we're gonna get 60 seconds of bridges. Remember, these bridges are yours, so do whichever variation. Ooh, I see the mosquito. Got it. All right, 60 seconds in 3, 2, and begin. So maybe you're holding a bridge. You can hold a bridge for a minute too. From here, you can pulse. There are so many ways to do these movements. So when you're in your own practice, go ahead and just play around with it and see what feels like you're getting the most benefit from. I'm working just the eccentric action, or focusing on the eccentric action of the muscle here, meaning I'm pressing up with both feet and then lowering with one. It's a very important action of the muscle to train. You're training the muscle to control force as it's lengthening versus when it's contracting. So that's the concentric action of the muscle. This, holding our bridge, this would be your isometric action. You've got 3, 2, and 1. Come into your side lying position. I have to slide down so I'm not in a puddle of my own sweat. We've got 30 seconds in 3, 2, and begin. All right, lifting. And I'm gonna stay in this variation this time. So y'all got to see all the different variations in our first set. Good, breathe. Keep my chest open. Seeing myself on the screen helps me remember. Could be useful to practice in front of a mirror or with your camera on you. Let's switch sides. It gives you a view that you might not be able to have. All right, and 30 seconds last time, 3, 2, and begin. You're almost there. Just think of one breath at a time. Got this. Just checking our time. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Woo! I am a sweaty mess. So pretty much every piece of clothing I own is either black or gray, and usually dark gray. And when I'm teaching, when I'm working, I don't usually wear the light colors because I'm a very, very sweaty person, and this is what happens. So I've been trying to wear the lighter colors because it's better contrast for this kind of work, but figuring it out as we go. We're 6 months into this, and I'm still figuring out how to use the internet. It's not nearly as bad as it was back in March. You can ask Mac. Mac, you've been around since like March. So you've been watching me bumble. We're going to come into some more mobility, some decompression. How's everyone feeling?
Also sweaty.
That's really good. Okay, I'm not the only one. None of y'all have your cameras on, so for all I know, I'm just like this hot, sweaty mess. I know that Ari's outside, so they're probably super sweaty too.
Definitely sweaty, definitely hot.
What did Mac say?
I agree with Mac. You're a pro now.
Yeah, so Mac says I've got the technology down now.
Yeah,
I went from not knowing how to even like live stream on YouTube to now I'm like on Zoom and then sending it to YouTube, and yeah, so but I learned it from somebody else on YouTube. I can't claim to have figured it out on my own. So all right, so coming back into decompressing our hips, I always like to come back into some hip flexor stretches. because so many folks are spending even more time at their desk these days and sitting. So getting some release in our hip flexors is really, really important. So we're gonna come in here, and I've got my foot flat this time because I want to get even more pressing down into the ground. From here, we're gonna rock back into a hamstring stretch. I like to turn my toe under for that. Flex the front foot, and then we bow over the front leg. Keep the chest square. And hip flexor, so we're coming back up and pressing into the front of the hip. Tight belly. And rock it back. And I'm gonna grab my toe this time too, so I can get even a little bit deeper. And switch sides. There we go, there's my stability. And press into your hip flexor. And rock it back. And hip flexor. And take it back again. Grab your toe if you'd like to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. All right, we're gonna come into a broken pigeon position. And I am absolutely uncertain if that's like the technical term for it. This is just what I call it, because to me, it kind of looks like pigeon in yoga, but if the pigeon were kind of busted. So trying to get a 90-degree angle in the back leg and a 90-degree angle in the front leg, and also getting as close as I can to a 90-degree angle in my ankles. And then I'm gonna come and hold that front foot in place because mine always tries to wiggle out of the stretch. And then lean forward, just like we're doing pigeon in yoga. And then I'm gonna kind of fish my chest around and find the deepest stretch that I can find, that I can tolerate in the outside of the hip of the front leg. So I'm feeling a little inhibited in my hamstrings. So I'm just gonna release my angle a little bit. There we go. So play around with your positioning and just know that at least when you're here working out with me, we're not coming at any of these movements or positions from a dogmatic mindset in that it has to be this or it has to look like that or it's not valid. Everyone's body is different. So everyone's body is going to find these sensations in different ways and different positions. And as I said at the beginning, please, please, please feel free to do something completely different. If you're like, you know what, I know I've got this stretch for my hip that just like works every single time and that's the stretch I want to do, and then go ahead and take that stretch. There we go. So I had to kind of get the chest around a little bit before I found it, but I found it. And just taking a few deep breaths and really relaxing down into that stretch. We want to find the point where it's uncomfortable but not painful. We're always leaning into discomfort, but we're not pushing into pain. Exercise doesn't have to be painful to be valid. Let's go ahead and sit tall and bring your foot to the inside of your thigh. I've been super tight in my hamstrings lately and was feeling tight in that position. So I'm going to go ahead and spend a little extra time in the hammies. Your body will communicate to you what it needs. Just trust it. I'm squeezing the top of my thigh. That's going to help me get a little deeper in the stretch in the back of my thigh. And I love to lift in here. So this twist and this hamstring stretch will really help you open up your side body all the way down into where it inserts at your hips, that QL. This muscle deep in your low back off to the sides. And let's switch sides. There's a reason why I do this stretch in almost every single class. You're going to notice some movements that show up over and over and over again. And this is one of them. and reach if that's going to feel good for you. And release it. Ew. All right, YouTubers, I'm going to sign off. Anyone who's on the Zoom who wants to stay on and chat for a little bit. Those of you on the YouTube, if you want to get in on the Zoom action, just go to patreon.com/TG-ENBY, become a patron at any level, and you will get the Zoom link